helping people cope with and overcome life's challenges. This is Life Transformations with Michael Hart, certified Christian counselor and director of Ottawa's Elam Counselling Services.
Hi, this is Michael Hart of Elam Counselling Services, and I want to thank you for joining us in this edition of the Life Transformation Radio Show. This is literally a show where chains are broken and the lives are transformed. Today, our show is on foundations of intimacy. Foundations of intimacy. We are looking at some of the prerequisites for intimacy, and we'll be talking about when those prerequisites are missing, how your relationships can be a challenge, and what can be, also we're looking at what can be done to overcome those missing pieces of the foundations, leading to a restoration and a revival of your relationships. So I think in some way this is a very timely show because we're heading into the Valentine's season and many people are beginning to think about what they're going to be buying as gifts. But I think one of the best gifts that you can give your partner is to be connected and close and to be intimate. And by intimacy, I'm not talking about sexual intimacy. I'm talking about that feeling of being together, that feeling of being close. But before we get into today's show, I would just like to talk a bit about Elam Counselling Services for those of you who are new. Elam is professional counseling services that provide counseling from a Christian perspective. So even though we are psychotherapists, we also believe in the Bible and the Word of God. People who come to us for services can also claim their benefits through their employee benefit plans. We have government workers, policemen, city workers who have come to us, and there's been no problem for getting their the cost for their services, the cost for the services reimbursed by their employers. So if you're out there and you have a need, don't hesitate to give us a call. We can be contacted at 613-699-1677. Again, 613-699-1677. If you would like to find out more about us before making that leap of faith, you can go to our website at elamcounsellingministry.com. Elam is spelled E-L-I-M, counseling with 2 L's, ministry.com. So please give us a call and we'll be happy to answer any question that you may have and be of service to you. For those of you who are faithful listeners, we remind you that we operate from a Christian perspective, which means also that we see people who are not able to afford the cost of the services we provide. So we encourage you, if you have not yet made a contribution to this ministry, consider doing so by going to our contact page on our website, and there are means of giving donations online as well. You can also mail your contribution to us through the means that are on the contact page. Again, the website is elamcounsellingministry.com. So now to the main course, which is this show, the title, Foundations of Intimacy. And which means Tudor today to discuss this very important topic is Melissa Waggett. Melissa, thank you very much for being on the show with us here today again, and welcome.
It's so fantastic to be back with you, Michael, and I'm really excited to explore this topic. As you mentioned, we're entering the month of February, so love is in the air. And hopefully through this show, we're going to explore some things that we can apply to the relationships that we're in. So as you say, we can build a good foundation of intimacy, because I think there's things that we'll touch on in today's show that may surprise people that if lacking can cause a lot of problems. And it may, and hopefully the other piece we want to explore too is the why some of these things may be lacking, and giving people really practical tips that they can apply to their relationship today. So by the time February 14th rolls around, love will be in the air, and that foundation will be strengthened. So in the past, you've done seminars where you have explored these emotional foundation components that are required to make relationships work. And you've touched on the fact that sometimes if these are absent, it makes it really difficult for us to have emotional intimacy with others.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, Melissa, instead of going through the list right up front and telling what these 7 things are, I'm going to just go through them one by one, if that's okay with you, and just name them. Then we can talk about them in a way that's really comprehensive, so people can get an understanding of what each one means. And as I say this, I think this show is going to make a lot of sense. Some aha moments is going to go on for people in relationships where they have been wondering, why is it that I just can't seem to get close to my partner? Why is it that he seems or she seems that she's pulling me in at times, but then at other times I feel as if I am being pushed away? What's going on? So maybe you have been racking your brain trying to figure out your partner. Stay tuned to this episode. It's going to be a good one, and you're going to get to understand some of the dynamics that are at play here.
Mm-hmm. So do you mind just starting us off with one of the foundational components that when lacking can really mess up our relationships with our partners?
I think one of the primary one is trust, the ability to be able to trust others. And if that is not there, if a person lacks that basic requirement to be able to trust, then it makes it very difficult for them to draw a close and intimate relationship, because it's as if they have their guards up and they just can't seem to get into this kind of intimate, close relationship where they're sharing details about their lives with someone else. So it makes it very difficult to feel close to people when that vital foundation of trust is missing.
Yeah, you can almost picture it that this wall would be constantly up in between them and their spouse when this trust is missing. So what kind of experiences would lead to someone to have this mistrust in their close relationships?
This sometimes go back to a person's childhood. In some cases, a person who is from a home where mom and dad in some way let them down. Maybe they had a great relationship with dad. Dad took off and left the family. Or maybe they had a great relationship with mom, and then something happened where they felt as if they were let down. Maybe they were promised things that were never delivered. And if someone is hurt over and over and over again as a child by a caregiver, by someone who they're trying to bond with and to develop a sense of who they are and how and what the world is like in those early days, then what usually happens is that in adult relationships, the wound from childhood will come to play, and it will be reflected in how they interact with others in adult life. So for people who have been abandoned, for example, it's very hard for them to trust that they're not going to be abandoned again. For people who have been hurt and told mean things, it's hard for them to trust that others are not going to hurt them in that kind of the way. So childhood wounds can be a part of it, but I think also traumatic adult relationships can affect a person's ability to trust. So if you have been in a former relationship, where a previous relationship where you thought this was the person that God had chosen for you, this is the person that you were going to spend the rest of your life with, and then suddenly everything started going wrong and you were let down. The trauma from that relationship can make it very difficult for you to open up again in an adult relationship, in another relationship.
In the way you explain it, you can really see how those experiences would really impact someone's worldview and how they see things.
Absolutely.
And so how does it also impact how they see themselves and how they need to be in these types of relationships so they don't go through that experience
so how
again?
they see themselves is going to be affected. But I think how they see the world, just to be a little bit clear on that, the way that they view the world as a result of that childhood wound is that people cannot be trusted. People people will let me down. And so as a result of that worldview of the world based on the breach of trust that happened either in infancy, in childhood, or in a previous adult relationship, that worldview also leads to what we call a core belief about themselves. So the core belief about themselves could be something along the line of, I am in danger. I have to protect myself from others. I cannot let my guard down. I have to always be vigilant. So as you can imagine, people who have that kind of core belief about self, it can be very difficult being in a relationship where that calls for intimacy and closeness.
Because they're being self-protective and they don't want to feel that emotion and the harm they did either as a kid
Absolutely.
or the last serious relationship where they were in. But you can also see how that really is hard for someone to get in that wants to get in. And so it kind of leads to my next question. How does that impact the relationships that we have?
So if you're in a relationship with someone who has this core belief, I am in danger, I have to protect myself, and what you're going to find is it's as if they're going to build a wall. There's a wall between you and that person emotionally, where you will find that the person seem as if they're shutting you out. It seems as if every time that you try to get close, he or she's pushing you away. So a person who don't trust, they have the tendency, for example, to be secretive. So this person, you would let us say you don't have that same wound. It's very easy for you to talk about your past, to talk about what you have been through, to share your resources, to have that kind of intimacy that's required in a relationship. But what happens if your partner has that wound where that essential foundation for intimacy, one of that foundation which is trust, if that is missing, then you will find that there's going to be secrecy. There's this kind of feeling of the person is acting as a loner. They're together with you, but you get the sense that it's almost as if they're acting single. So they want to live a separate life. They want to do things on their own. They don't let you into their circle of friends. And what the root of that could be that there is a trust issue. I don't trust you. Maybe you're going to take away my friends. Maybe if I let you into my circle of friends, I don't trust that you will still be there for me. You may abandon me, or someone might take you away. So there is this, when trust is not there is a sense of vulnerability where this person feels in danger. So if I introduce you to my friends, the next thing I might know is that you might discover things about me that you don't like, and then I'm going to be abandoned. So when trust is missing, it makes relationships very, very difficult.
Do you also see suspicion come into play? I'm thinking someone
Absolutely.
who doesn't trust may also be that very suspicious person.
Suspicious and vigilant. Right? I think
they're going to go after it.
Yes,
but I can see if that's the case, and maybe you're a spouse that has nothing to hide.
Right.
But you have this hyper-vigilant partner that's, where are you? What are you doing? Who are you going with? And they're checking up on you. And you may have done nothing to erode that trust.
Right. You might just be having an innocent conversation with someone at the back of the church.
Exactly.
Where, you're talking about how good the service was, but because it's a member of the opposite sex, that person looks on and they I am in danger, core value of self comes in, and they're feeling all of that. And all of that negative emotion that comes from being abandoned from their childhood, and so they feel you're going to abandon them, and it causes a big fight after church. And next time you're in church now, you're wondering, who can I talk to? How is my partner going to react if I talk to someone? So that kind of suspicion can be very, very draining to go through with persons who have that foundation of trust affected. And so it makes for a very difficult relationship, because even things that you consider is quite harmless and quite normal would be threatening to that person. I remember this one client some years ago who came to me, and she said, I had to be walking on eggshells all the time. I remember I was in the line for the line to pay my groceries once, and he was there with me, and I started talking with the cashier, and afterwards I felt it was just a normal conversation, like he asked me about the weather and we were talking about the weather.
And have a nice day kind of thing.
Have a nice day. But it was a big argument in the car park after, because her partner felt as if she was interested in the cashier, and she said, I was just having a social conversation. So if you have just joined us, you're listening to the Life Transformation Radio Show, and I'm your host, Michael Hart of Elam Counselling Services, and we're talking today about foundations of intimacy, some of the things which, if missing from your relationship, can make for very difficult time with your partner. So one of the what we have covered so far is that trust is a very vital component for intimacy, and if trust is not there, if something has happened in your partner's childhood or in a previous relationship that affected that foundation, it's going to be very, very difficult to have intimacy and to come close to that person.
And so we've given a couple examples from your clinical practice and just in general what this could look like in a relationship. And so if people are out there listening and they're like, that's my partner, or we've had that fight on the drive home from church or the grocery store, whatever the case may be, how can they bring this up with their partner and start to hopefully build that foundation and build some trust back into their relationship?
But I think one of the first steps is to disengage yourself from the dance, because I call it the dance in a way. It's a kind of very painful dance, but it's nevertheless a dance. And the dance goes something like this. Something very innocuous happens, something very, 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 very harmless, like the conversation with the person at the clerk in the supermarket. And because of your partner lack of trust, it becomes this big argument. When I say disengage, it takes two persons to make that into a big argument. So for situations like that, if you started being questioned and you start defending yourself and say, no, this is just, I wasn't coming on to him, it was just an innocent conversation. He's going, yes, I could see the look in your eyes, and you're going, what look are you talking about?
You're crazy.
You're crazy.
What are you talking
and then
about?
You're just fueling fire. So first of all, I think to disengage from that dance, you need to realize that what is happening with your partner is not rational. So no amount of rational reasoning is going to be able to get him or her to desist from what they're doing. But this is what caused these arguments sometimes to lead to big explosions, because the harder you try to convince that nothing is happening, it's the more reason he's feeling that you're hiding something. So disengage from the dance by denying it very pleasantly, by saying, this is not like me, this is not my character, I've never done anything like this, and I will never do that. And just leave it right there. Because if you engage, I think you're just making it more and more into a bigger and bigger argument.
But what if people then would say, but if I don't defend myself, I'm a doormat?
Right. So I'm not saying don't defend yourself. Okay. I'm saying defend yourself, but then pull away from the argument and saying, I think I have said enough. There's nothing more that I can say that is going to convince you that I wasn't doing it. So I'm not going to talk about this anymore. Right? Because if you engage, I think it's futile for one, and two, it is just causing that person to become more insecure, because nothing that you say is going to convince him or her that this is not, that you weren't guilty of something, because it's not a rational fear.
So once you stop the dancing, what steps then need to come into play? So now you're not feeding the fire and the drama of the accusation, but the underlying problem is still there, is it not?
So what usually happens in these situations, these people who are triggered by these events, and you will engage in these big arguments where they will even drive away and leave you, and you have to take the bus home because they're so upset.
I'm carrying my groceries.
That you did something wrong. They can be the sweetest person the next day. So So the next day they might come and say, I'm sorry for how I reacted last night, and I shouldn't have done that. So I think there are other times when you can have that conversation, but the time to have it is not in the heat of the moment, because then they're in a very emotional state. The sense of being cheated on or about to be cheated on is very, very strong, but usually that feeling will dissipate over time. So I think you can have that conversation maybe a few days after, where you can say, remember yesterday when we were at the grocery store and this happened? I just wanted you to know that I was very, very offended, because it's not like me. I've never done that. I will never do that. And have a talk about it there, and if it's a recurring problem that has happened over and over, bring that to light, that this is happening, and there might be the need for professional help. So at some point you might have to say, this is becoming unbearable for me. I can't live in this situation where I feel as if I am always being attacked, and so you might have to, you may need to get to a place where you strongly suggest that if this relationship is going to go forward, we need to have professional help.
Okay, so now that we have the building block of trust figured out and explored, what other foundational elements of intimacy are there?
Well, the second foundation of intimacy that I want to talk about is self-worth, because it's not often connected to intimacy. But if a person's self-worth is damaged, either because of something that happened in childhood or in a previous relationship, it makes for very, 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 very troubled relationship with others. So by self-worth, I mean the sense that I am okay, the sense that I have worth and I have value. If that is not there, self-worth is not there, then it's very difficult to get close to people like that.
And so what can lead to someone having a low self-worth or negative self-image?
Again, in childhood, experiences like being abandoned, not having your needs taken care of. If when a person is young, this sense that they are important to their parents was not there. That mom and dad had a very genuine, keen interest in that person's well-being. This can lead to feeling that I am worth nothing. And so if that's not there, it can also be from how you were treated in relationship to your siblings. I remember one person tells me, in my family there was three of us. There were three girls. My older sister was the pretty one, and my younger sister was the smart one. And I am kind of like nothing in the middle. So this is how this person saw herself. So if that self-worth, it's I am neither pretty or smart.
I'm nothing.
And I am nothing. And my parents love my older sister because she's so beautiful, and they love my younger sister because she's the smart one, so they're getting praise. One is getting praise for beauty, the other is getting praise for their brilliance, and I am just lost in the middle. And when we did the show on siblings, we talked about the middle child being the lost child, and I think this is a very typical example where people who are in that situation, their self-worth is sometimes impacted, where they felt as if, and you said it right, Melissa, as if they're really nothing.
Mm-hmm. So how does this impact when I feel like I have no value and I'm worthless? How does it impact how I view the world? So
the people in the world would be seen as people are superior to me. People think I am lacking. So if people are superior in group settings, that person would tend to feel very uncomfortable, because other people are superior, either how they look, or they're smarter than I am, or they have more things than I do. Very insecure in terms of even judging people based on what they own compared to them, and so it. In those ways, it positions this person to see others in the world as being better than they are.
And I think we've alluded to some of this already, but how does that person view themselves? Right.
So in terms of the core value of self, which would be, I am incapable. People are so pure. I'm incapable. I am not good enough.
I have probably nothing to offer, right?
I have nothing to offer. I am unlovable is a very common one. So I am unlovable. So you can imagine the challenges that this would pose for a romantic relationship.
Yeah, I'm thinking someone's offering love and you can't accept it because who would ever love me? And I also think the opposite could probably happen. Maybe someone's not treating you well, but you take it because you don't think you're deserved any better.
Absolutely. So that's quite common as well, right? That because I am not worth anything, I won't stand up, I won't have any boundaries. I am so desperate that I am able to put up with just about anything to be in a relationship.
Because that's what I deserve.
And then the flip side of that is that you could be in a good relationship, but because you feel that you're unlovable, your partner might think you're the greatest woman that has ever lived and or the greatest person that has ever lived, but you just can't believe it because it doesn't fit with your concept, your core value of self. So no amount of love, no amount of attention, no amount of care can make that person feel as if they're really being loved.
So how can we fix this if we're finding ourselves in a relationship where low self-worth is present in one or both partners?
Again, it goes back to the childhood wounds, Melissa. If someone is in a situation where they have been impacted because of a previous childhood wounds, it's necessary to sit with a professional and to get to the root of this issue. And maybe you're listening to my voice and you're saying, yes, these situations that you're talking about seem so true to my situation, and we have been trying to get out of this rut for years, but we are just stuck in this rut and we're having this dance, as you call it. I'm saying reach out for help. Start by beginning to talk to your pastor, begin to talk to people who around you who might be able to begin to help and to guide you to the right sources. And I think a lot of times, as I said before, professional help might be needed. Melissa, we're out of time for today. The time has gone by so quickly, and we still have a number of we have 5 more points to cover. So I think this is going to be at least a 3-part episode, and I think that's great because it's going to take us into Valentine's Day. So if you have just joined us, you're listening to the Life Transformation Radio Show. I'm your host, Michael Hart of Elam Counselling Services.
And Melissa Waggett.
Thanking you very much for joining us today in this edition of the show. If you need to reach us, you can call us at 613-699-1677. You can also visit our website at elamcounselingministry.com. And until next time, this is your host, Michael Hart, praying that God would bless you in all your relationships and to keep you sound in mind and pure in heart. Thank you for listening.